Hi all, I will be presenting my project. Okay, so my name is Angeline Ruiz, and the title of my project is The Mysterious Matter Column. Question: how do six different items organize themselves based on their specific physical properties? So in this project, I will be experimenting and I'm going to demonstrate how six different items, three solids and three liquids, how they stack up against each other. So my abstract. In this experiment, I will be demonstrating the properties of physical matter and how they work against each other. So the three phases are gas, liquid, and solid matter. In this specific project, we're only going to be working with liquid and solid. Each of these phases of matter carry their own characteristics, and that's what makes them unique from each other. And each of these properties can be distinguished separately based off of their characteristics that can be viewed visually and measured the way we're going to be doing today. So my hypothesis, okay, so I believe that the penny is going to sink all the way to the bottom and the cork stopper will float on the top of all the items. And we're going to move on to procedures and materials. So just a quick little introduction about this project. This project is going to be very interesting because we're kind of going to be going against what we would think. Normally, we would think a solid is going to sink all the way to the bottom because it is ideally heavier than a liquid, but we're going to find out to see if that is true or untrue. So my materials here, I'm going to be using a graduated cylinder, a rubber stopper, a cork stopper, a penny, a fixed volume of oil, a fixed volume of water, and a fixed volume of corn syrup. Now, once again, all of these items are home items. Procedures. So first, I'm going to lay out all my materials on a clean and spacious table to set everything up. And I'm going to begin with my graduated cylinder. And then I'm going to grab each of my items one by one, pouring them and placing them into the cylinder. So it's important to write down changes as you see them happening. So as each item is being set into the graduated cylinder, it's important to note the change visually and just jot them down real quick. What is it that you're seeing? How fast are things happening once you pour or place these items into the graduated cylinder? And it's very important to also make sure that every single change is noted down. Now for experiment and results, who will rise, who will fall? The stats are in. So for the experiment, I have here two pictures, one of the materials that were used in this project, and the last one, the second picture, is going to be a result of the combination of all these items mixed together. I also have here a YouTube link that you guys can click on, and it will show me performing the actual experiment, and you can see me doing each thing one step at a time. So as for the results, let's see what happened. Okay, so analyzing our results. When I first poured the volume of the water into the graduated cylinder, nothing happened. Water was the only thing that was inside the graduated cylinder. So next I poured in the corn syrup. And at this point, the corn syrup had went all the way to the bottom. And you can note the difference between, if you get like eye level with the graduated cylinder, you can see the water that is like floating on top above the corn syrup. So next I went in and I grabbed my fixed volume of oil and I poured it into the graduated cylinder. And now we notice that the oil is on top of the water, so it's now the topmost layer. So you have the oil, the water, and now the corn syrup in the bottom. Then I went ahead and added my solid items. So one by one, I dropped in the rubber stopper, and the rubber stopper is now floating to the top, but you can see that it is kind of like breaking through the oil, kind of in between the oil and the water, but not all the way completely touching the corn syrup. So next I grabbed my penny and I dropped my penny into the graduated cylinder, and the penny sank all the way to the bottom. And you can notice while the penny is going down to the bottom, it's very quick to pass through the oil and the water, but it takes a little bit of more time to pass through the corn syrup, and that's just because the corn syrup is much more denser than the water and the oil. And my last step in this experiment was to drop the cork stopper, and the cork stopper turned out to float right on top. It did not sink, it did not break any barriers, and it was the topmost layer out of all 6 materials. So conclusion and discussion. So to conclude this experiment, we can see how do 6 different items organize themselves based on their specific properties. The hypothesis for this experiment was in fact proven to be true. The cork stopper was the one out of 6 items that rose above, and the penny was the one out of 6 items that sank to the bottom. And as we can see, these two items, they're both solid, so we would assume solid is going to go to the bottom and overpass all of the liquid items, but it was actually proven that 2 solid items doesn't necessarily mean that they will both sink to the bottom, and that has to do with the laws of science and the characteristics of physical properties of matter. So to discuss and to go a little bit more in depth into what that means, we can see that the cork stopper took no time and it just floated into the water, but the penny sunk all the way, even though it took a little bit of time to break through that tough corn syrup. And that is because they both have different levels of density, and they weigh different. They have different volumes of weight, mass, and like I said earlier, density. So those are 3 like very important things that you need to consider when doing this experiment and creating your hypothesis, because that has a huge effect in what would happen in the next process. Okay. And these are just some of my references. Thank you.